To further look at the significance of these latest developments, we have with us Dr. Bong Young-shik from the Yonsei Institute for North Korean Studies. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Pleased to be here.
Now, the White House has revealed that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has sent another letter to Donald Trump. We don't know what the letter says, but what can we take away from the fact that Kim Jong-un has sent a letter at all?
Well, I mean, he has sent two previous letters, right? So this will be the third one. And the message has been, I believe, very consistent, meaning that both sides need to upgrade their bilateral relations, which is at the bottom since the Korean War. So another summit meeting, which will be in favor of the North Korea's demands, will be desperately needed to maintain the momentum that has been created since the Singapore summit meeting in June. But Trump also reiterated his intention to invite Mr. Kim to the United States or have another meeting with Mr. Kim, but in the terms that would only satisfy the expectations of the United States for North Korea's denuclearization. So although both sides exchange pleasantries and repeatedly confirm that they would look forward to another meeting, it's not just an unconditional invitation. It's not like the two lovers having very romantic phone calls saying that you hang up first, and let's hang up together on 3, 1, 2, 3, and nobody hang up. It's far from that. It's just push and pull, kind of very tough, gentle but very tough push and pull between Mr. Kim Jong-un and Mr. Donald Trump for realizing denuclearization of North Korea for the United States and getting the declaration of the official end of the Korean War and lifting of the economic sanctions for Kim Jong-un regime of North Korea.
I mean, but if we look at President Trump's tweet revealing when he received the letter, he says, "Thank you for your nice letter. I look forward to seeing you soon." Now,
under appropriate circumstances. That's the missing part.
That's the missing part in the tweet, you're saying. So you think there might have been another invitation from Kim Jong-un in the letter, do you think?
Right. But at the same time, Trump administration has been really firm in terms of demanding that North Korea be moving really forward in the right pace and in right terms since the Singapore summit meeting. Although the Singapore summit meeting itself was not really detail-oriented. It was really broad for its 4 major agreements. But in terms of moving forward, since the Singapore summit meeting in June, the Trump administration has made a kind of a 180-degree turnaround in terms of demanding very specific roadmaps of the North Korea's denuclearization process and the list of all the facilities and materials and technology that North Korea possesses for developing intercontinental ballistic missile and nuclear warheads since then. So North Korea has been trying its best to delay, meeting the demand from the Trump administration, but it's like slow bleeding for Kim Jong-un regime because as long as the economic sanctions remain in place, North Korea's desperate situation to escape from the chronic and urgent economic difficulties will not be changed. I'd like to remind our viewers that North Korea's economy last year, 2017, recorded annual growth rate of minus 3.5. Minus 3.5. That's because of economic sanctions.
You called the letters a kind of push and pull, and if we looked, we've only seen the contents of the second letter that Kim Jong-un sent to Trump, and in it was mostly just pleasantries as well, and like thanking his efforts and reaffirming their commitment to uphold their joint statement. There's not a lot of substantial content, but these letters do cause a lot of fuss because we've not seen this kind of thing before. Do these letters have some other kind of significance, do you think?
Oh, definitely. I mean, if you remember the second letter, although it's an open invitation for President Trump to come to visit Pyongyang, it also specifies the phrase that under the right circumstances. Basically, if the United States would accept the demand from Pyongyang to officially declare the end of the Korean War, basically declaring to end the hostile policy toward North Korea, then the situation will be ripe for Kim Jong-un regime to invite the U.S. president to Pyongyang. So in return, the Trump administration also welcomed the open invitation and reaffirmation of the invitation by Kim Jong-un regime of North Korea, but at the same time, it reiterates the standing position that another summit meeting between DPRK and United States will be only made under the right circumstances, meeting the standards of the United States.
Now, news of this letter came just as the North Korean Foreign Minister Ri Yong-ho was traveling to Singapore, it seems. So he's now in Singapore to attend the ASEAN Regional Forum, and who's also expected to come there? U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Now, there's no confirmation yet, but there are expectations that the two could meet to try and further discuss the denuclearization process and possibly the ending of the Korean War as well. But do you think they will actually meet?
Well, if your question regards only the physical meeting between the two ministers, then I would say that it's highly likely. I'd like to just cite the slogan of Adidas, impossible is nothing, right? It's gathering of 27 foreign ministers of the United Nations member countries and ASEAN, so why not, right? But if your question is focused on something big might be going to happen between Mike Pompeo and Ri Yong-ho, then I would say that the chance is very low for two reasons. One, so far, United States and North Korea policy and North Korea's U.S. policy have been mainly governed by top leadership. White House for the United States and Kim Jong-un and Kim Yong-chol for North Korea. So there was not much autonomy or initiative taken by the foreign ministry of both countries. Mike Pompeo has been the main appointment for the Trump administration in dealing with nuclear North Korea, but he was acting as a chief of the CIA before he became the Secretary of State. So considering that Mike Pompeo's counterpart is not Kim Yong-chol, but Ri Yong-ho of the Foreign Ministry of North Korea, I don't think Ri Yong-ho would enjoy so much elbow room or latitude of freedom to make big deals with his counterpart, Secretary Pompeo this time. I would say that both sides would work on, making the working groups decided between the two parties during Secretary Pompeo's last visit to Pyongyang. I think that's the most outcomes that you can expect to get from this meeting, if it's ever going to take place between Mr. Pompeo and Mr. Lee.
South Korea's Foreign Minister Kang Kyung-hwa is also, of course, there in Singapore as well. There's also, not confirmed yet, but it seems like she will meet with Ri Yong-ho at some point this weekend as well. How important do you think is South Korea's role in this opportunity, as where we have the South Korea, North Korea, US and China, all these foreign ministers in one place? How important is the opportunity to push this issue forward right now with North Korea? I
would say that what Minister Kang Kyung-hwa is going to do in her meeting with her counterpart, Mr. Ri Yong-ho of North Korea, and her counterpart from the United States, Secretary Pompeo, are extremely important, not only for the process of denuclearization and the regional stability and peace on the Korean Peninsula, but also for standing of South Korea itself. Because what kind of move South Korean government is going to take as a next step is critically important as a signal, as a measuring stick for South Korea's commitment to denuclearization of North Korea, even at a high cost. South Korea has been pressured by North Korea to be on the side of same Korean nation. The Nodong Shinbun, the mouthpiece of North Korean government, actually ran the editorial that it is pathetic and disgraceful to watch South Korea folded under the pressure of the United States, meaning that South Korea's participation in the proliferation treaty initiatives. And it also criticized South Korean government not canceling the so-called May 24th measures that has prohibited any exchange of humans and economic activities between the two Koreas after the 2010 provocations by North Korea, the sinking of Cheonan corvette ship and the bombardment of Yeonpyeong Island. And the North Korean government has been increasing its own pressure on South Korea to resume the economic activities in the Mamting Kumgang tourist site and the reopening of the Kaesong Industrial Complex. Why? Because these areas are not really within the realm of United Nations Security Council resolutions, economic sanctions on North Korea. So it is a kind of North Korea's hope and the effort to drive the wedge between South Korea in the name of national solidarity and buying peace on the Korean Peninsula and the rest of the world, led by the United States. Because this is the easy stuff for North Korea in terms of lifting the economic sanctions, and it will lead to, North Koreans are hoping, to general easing of economic sanctions authorized by the United Nations Security Council.
So this weekend marks the 100 days since the Panmunjom Declaration was signed between the two Koreas at the Inter-Korean Summit. How would you rate South Korea's progress then on North Korea relations and carrying out the Panmunjom Declaration?
Well, I'd like to give due credit to the Moon Jae-in government because of the very successful summit meeting on April 27th with North Korea was a catalyst for the realization of first ever summit meeting between U.S. President and the Supreme Leader of North Korea in June. But at the same time, South Korea is still fighting off the temptations to advocate a more engagement policy toward North Korea without actually getting discernible and verifiable actions taken by Kim Jong-un regime for denuclearization. The argument goes that we have to give more positive incentives to Kim Jong-un regime, such as the reopening of Kaesong Industrial Complex and the resumption of the other inter-Korean economic projects. Then it will give the more stronger incentives for the North Korean government to accelerate the process of denuclearization, putting more trust in the promise made by the United States, Japan, and South Korea. But the United States has been very adamant that we have to see verifiable progress of denuclearization by the Kim Jong-un regime of North Korea first, before we actually reduce our means of pressure, including economic sanctions and possible military options, if the economic sanctions will fail to produce the right result. That explains why Trump administration still remains quite reluctant for this idea of declaring the official end of the Korean War. Because after the declaration is made, it will be almost impossible for Washington to turn to military operations in lieu of economic sanctions in order to keeping the pressure on North Korea for denuclearization. The United States still wants to keep all the options on the table.
Well, that's all we have time for today, but thank you for your insights, and we look forward to having you on the show again.
Pleasure.